Bam! Are you sure it has enough salt? I feel like it needs more salt. No? Okay, no, okay. Wait, how they do it on TV.
And now we're whipping all the eggs together.
Hi, I'm Yara, and that's me cooking Iranian food with my mom. In episodes 1 and 2, I spent some time with LA's Iranian community, also known as Tehrangeles, to talk to other Iranian Americans about living and growing up in the US. And now, I'm going back home to figure out what being Iranian American means to me, and how my family's story plays into all of this. I'm one of the estimated 1 million Iranian Americans who live in the US. I was born and raised in Northern California, but like a lot of Americans with immigrant parents, I sort of have this dual identity. On the one hand, I'm very American, but I'm also very Iranian. Here in the States, both my parents are small business owners. My mom runs a clothing boutique and lives in San Francisco. My dad owns a Subway and lives an hour south. He came to the US as a teenager to get an education, right before Iran's 1979 revolution. A few years later, when Iran was in the middle of a war with Iraq, my dad went back and married my mom. Together, they moved to the US and eventually had me. We're here at my dad's Subway. We're gonna go inside and see what he's up to. My dad's owned this place for over 30 years.
Thank you.
I practically grew up here, and I ate a lot of his sandwiches, especially on my birthdays. My dad's been here so long that he's really gotten to know his customers, and the pigeons outside. My dad's definitely changed while living in America. Before, he wanted to move back to Iran. He almost always spoke Persian, and he hated having dogs in the house. Now, he happily lives in the suburbs, mostly speaks English.
Happy holidays and Happy New Year.
And loves dogs.
Yeah, good.
But Iran is still very much a part of who he is. We even found this under his carpet. God, it's a map of Iran. Before my dad came to the US, the Iranian Revolution was picking up steam. He was getting involved with the protests, and his parents were concerned for his safety.
In Iran, the things was changing. You would see people come to the streets and going against the Shah of Iran. All of a sudden, my father came to a house. He says, it's time for Amir to go to United States. I was almost 17.
Why did he say that?
Because they said if Amir stays here, he may be killed.
Back then, in 1979, Iranians made up the largest group of foreign students in America. There were over 50,000 of them. But then, the hostage crisis happened. That's when Iranian revolutionaries, determined to end US influence in Iran, held dozens of Americans captive for over a year. In response, President Carter cut diplomatic ties with Iran and temporarily banned most Iranians from entering the country. And all the Iranian students already in the US had to report to immigration authorities to prove they were legal. Several thousand were deported back to Iran as anti-Iranian protests took place across the country. In some cases, immigration officers showed up at people's homes.
There was somebody knocking at the door. And we were 4 guys in a 3-bedroom apartment. And there were 2 gentlemen with a tie, blue shirt. Yes, sir. We are here from immigration office and we're gonna check all the passports. All of us were shaking. Maybe they wanna deport us.
You've never told me about this. I've never heard this.
Oh, it was so fearful.
My dad earned a master's degree in mechanical engineering here in California. But when he finally got his green card, he didn't have much luck finding a job in his field, which is how he ended up getting involved with Subway. I should take this.
So what you're gonna have to do, you get some yogurt, and then I'm gonna add a little bit of saffron to the yogurt.
Who taught you how to make these things?
My mom, she was and is an excellent cook.
Yeah, she is. Okay.
And my grandma. I used to watch them for like minutes, hours.
My mom is cutting herbs.
But you know, the smell of it makes me nostalgic. Still takes me back there.
My mom grew up in Tehran. When she came to the US with my dad after graduating high school, they thought they'd only be here for just a few years. But an 8-year war had broken out between Iran and Iraq. Moving back to Iran had to be put on hold. My mom did go back to visit during the war. What she saw of her country shocked her.
Everybody was mourning. Everything was black. The cemetery was full. People were sad.
You didn't expect to stay in the United States.
Oh no, I had no desire. I was homesick. I was missing my mom, simply my mom. My girlfriends from high school, my dad, my home.
My parents got divorced about 20 years ago. But away from her family and on her own, my mom started her own business.
The whole philosophy, the concept of operating this business, I think it's more of the Persian or Middle Eastern than Western world. We sit down, we talk, we have tea together, we have sessions together.
Iranian culture has also played a part in how my parents raised me.
When you were born, we both of us tried to raise you with the Iranian culture. Always me and your mom thought one day we're gonna go back to Iran.
We were talking Farsi to you. Yeah. Me and your dad, we never spoke English to you. The only time you were getting exposed to English was when you were watching cartoon TV.
What was that like? What was I watching?
Barney's, that purple character every morning, huge thing, Barney's.
Barney. Growing up, we'd go back to Iran when we could. I wasn't too crazy about it as a kid, but developed a huge interest in going back as I got older, to the point where I moved there for 2 years to work as a journalist and translator after college. There was just something unbelievably wholesome about the unconditional love I'd received from my enormous family. Something about Iran just sucked me in. Maybe it was because I sometimes felt out of place in America and wanted to flesh out this other side of my identity. Even still, I didn't feel fully Iranian in Iran. People told me I spoke Persian with an American accent, that my hand gestures totally gave away my American identity, or that the way I thought about things was different. But growing up Iranian in America had its hurdles too.
Did they ever bully you?
Well, there was one instance. We were playing soccer, and I remember this kid, and he looked at me, and this was after 9/11. I think I'd maybe kicked the ball improperly, and yeah, he looked at me and he was like, "Oh yeah, that terrorist?" So I know for me, like the Iranian identity always came through, you know. I am very obviously different looking and different maybe sounding, and maybe I have a funny name, right? It's Yara Elmjui, like what is that? You know, people, where is that from, right? No, I like it, no, I love it today, but back then when you're kind of trying to blend in, it's different, right?
I remember you told me one day, I don't like my name. And I said, everybody loves your name. Everybody thinks it's such a beautiful name. What should I have called you? You go, David. I said, between all these names, David? Why David? David is cool. I said, well, how about David? At least to give it. Or Dawood.
My parents haven't lost sight of their Iranianness, but they've now spent far more of their lives here in the US than they ever did in Iran. My dad ended up getting remarried to a Salvadoran woman, and now I have 2 sisters. Here's one of them.
Good to see you. I got mom's birthday cake. Hi. Hello guys.
As you see, I am 58 years old almost. 17 years in Iran, almost 39 years in the United States.
Now, today, I have a choice of packing and moving back there. I have a choice of living here.
What choice have you made?
This is home for me.
Here in California.
This is home for me.
Be Iranian, American, doesn't matter. We live in LA or we live in New York. We came here as a student. We didn't want to stay here. But this country made us love this country, and we love it. All of us. Sorry. So we are both Iranian American. But nobody can separate us. Sorry. This is our identity. We are 2 arms. You want me to cut one? We can't. You want me to cut this one? We can't. And this is my America. I am a writer.
I've talked a lot about feeling in between in this series, in some sort of limbo between one identity and the other. But talking to my mom and my dad, it got me thinking, maybe I don't need to live my life feeling divided and in between. Maybe I can firmly and confidently embrace both identities simultaneously. I mean, in a sense, what's more American than that? Okay, so I just put my family on display for you guys. Hope you enjoyed hearing about my story as a child of immigrants. But now I'm gonna turn it over to you. What's your family's immigration story like, and how's it shaped who you are? Don't forget to subscribe and watch out for our next episode where we break down some myths about the Iranian American community.